All right, guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS video. My name is Eric Paulzine. Going to be getting to the Travelers Championship here for you guys. Going to give you guys that course preview, the top picks in each price point tier. Going to be highlighting the core plays as they come. Then we're going to be showing you guys a first look build. As you guys know, last week was a pretty fun week. Matt Fitzpatrick core play outright bet hit. That's our 10th winner of the season. It's been an okay year outright wise. Typically speaking, it's a little bit higher than that. But hey, it's been a weird kind of year where some golfers that seem like they're going to win, like Beau Hossler, Shane Lowry, a bunch of other guys where they just kind of choked down the stretch with like incredibly terrible shots, like shots that shouldn't happen for PGA Tour players. And with like just missing out on Billy Horschel 2 weeks ago and then the Wyndham Clark first round leader bet where, you know, we're just like a click off of hitting them, that Matt Fitzpatrick win felt so good. And I feel like that's a good example of like why Sungjae Im was a good play as well. Both those two players, you could arguably say that they should have been like $1,000 more expensive on DraftKings, okay? So with that, it's like it doesn't make sense to fade someone when they are the correct play, you know, both top 10 plays. You just kind of have to play them. And I think that's why we saw Sungjae Im's ownership so high. And even looking at the ownership leverage tool that 9to5 has, he wasn't like overly owned. He was properly owned. So that kind of just tells us, hey, if a guy is high owned, that's the correct play. You know, you just kind of roll with it. And the thing with like Sungjae is, and like Mito and Shane Lowry, these guys did have a slight weather disadvantage. And obviously that led to them missing the cut. T65, if you give them that, it was like a shot and a half disadvantage. If you give them even like a half a stroke or a stroke there, they're obviously making the cut there. So, you know, it is sometimes those little things, but that led to the cut being, or the cut sweat being like 6 for 6 was like 1%. 5 out of 6 was like 9 or 10% in some contests. The norm was 3 out of 6. So there was a lot of 9to5 members that were able to cash with 3 out of 6 across the cut line. And I was just talking about like doing the correct process. That's what that was. You just stick to the guys that are the correct plays. It's going to reward you in the long term. And that's what we're seeing, guys. It's been a nice, solid stretch for like really, I don't want to say the whole season, but really the whole season, but the past 4 months. It's just like these correct decisions that we make each week are really starting to add up where, you know, you can cash with 3 out of 6 across the cut line when you're doing things correctly. Same thing 2 weeks ago where it was a cut sweat, like, or a cash sweat, but it still adds up to being able to cash. And that's really what the theme has been. It's like, you know, we're having these weeks in which they're good enough to cash in. And then also they're good enough to, you know, take down a GPP. The player pool last week was interesting. So I break it down to core plays, high exposure plays, mid-tier plays, low exposure plays, and lower exposure plays. It was the mid-tier was all right, and the low exposure plays kind of sucked. Other than that, though, we had a bunch of players in the top 10. Basically, top 12, I think it was. Everyone that was in the top 12 besides like Will Zalatoris and Scotty Scheffler were in the 9to5 player pool. Obviously, the reason I wasn't on like Scotty Scheffler and Zalatoris was, well, for Zalatoris, it was I thought Hideki had just as much upside. I thought Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele had just as much upside and were safer. And then Joaquin Niemann as well, safer. Thought he had just as much upside as well. For Xander and Joaquin Niemann, they really just had one bad round. Xander had one bad 9. That's kind of how it goes. And that's kind of always my approach. I'm always going to go with safety and upside, going to be targeting that. And then with Scotty Scheffler, I just liked Rory. I liked John Rahm a little bit more. We saw that come through. So overall, you know, fun week, fun to cheer for. Very interesting showdown-wise, and then I'll get into the picks here. Showdown-wise, first and second round were okay. They're like push weeks or push days. Third round was my best round, which typically speaking, it's exactly the other way around. So it's just kind of interesting there with showdown. Thought I would note that the first round and second round were, you know, push days, and then round 3 was the best, which typically not speaking. Typically it's like round 1 or round two are going to be really good, and round 3 and round 4 are not going to be very good. So just thought I would note that. Kind of interesting there. But I do have an update here for you guys. I'm kind of excited for the update that I'm going to show you in a little bit here at 9to5 Sports. It's just an updated look at one of the day sheets. I'm trying to see if people like it. So if you guys like it a little bit more than what I originally had, let me know. I'm trying to make it more simple, but at the same time, people might not like it. So I'm just trying to test it out before I really fully launch it to see if people like it. So let's get into it, guys. I'm excited. Let's go. So what I'm going to start off by showing you guys, kind of just make these videos a little bit quicker, is I want to be looking at the last 4 years, but we're looking at the last 3 years here at this tournament, just to see how it played out. So Harris, English, DJ, Ches Reavie were the past 3 winners, but what were the key stats, what were the winning score and whatnot. This is what I always look at. This is the tool where I get it from. So the average cut line has been 2.7 under par. That's the cut line. It's okay. Kind of a normal scoring track, and we kind of see that. So it's going to be a normal to easy scoring event. I think that might just depend on the weather. Let's see here. No, not really. Just might depend on how they have the course set up. Winning score, the average winning score is going to be about 16 under par. Okay, so if you're doing props, you can kind of use that to your knowledge. So with the key stats that I'm looking for, and I try to break this down as simple as possible. You guys know what I try to do. I try to make everything as simple as possible for you guys. So what we're looking at, we want to be looking at, hey, what kind of scoring is it? Is it going to be like a bogey avoidance type of thing? That's why we're looking at birdie to bogey ratio, or is it going to be birdie or better percentage where you just have to be scoring? Well, we do see, typically speaking, that golfers that struggle to make birdies are always less likely to make the cut. That's what this is showing us. But to play well, you have to be really strong in birdie to bogey ratio. And since it's not like a hard scoring event, I'm going to be looking at birdie to bogey ratio. Like I always try to see, like, is it a good drive percentage or driving distance type course? We do see a little bit more of a good drive percentage there. Makes sense because it is a shorter track. It's a par 70 course, and the yardage is very short. So with it being a par 70 course, it's no surprise that something like par 4 scoring is sticking out as something that you need to be successful at to score here. So key stat-wise, we're going to be looking at par 4 scoring for sure, birdie to bogey ratio for sure. Those are two things that I really want to be looking at. And then from there, I do want to point out, like, strokes gained approach, if you're struggling in that, you're not going to be doing well. Strokes gained putting was kind of popping up there a little bit for winners more than it typically does, so I don't mind looking at strokes gained putting as well. You know, those are going to be some of the key stats that we're looking at, and then, you know, always kind of looking at strokes gained total, and then that effective scoring, that 9 to 5 only stat. So with that, let's get into the update for 9 to 5 sports. Let me zoom it out here a little bit. Ooh. All right. So this is kind of the view. I try to make it as simple as possible, but, you know, it's got the fancy little hover tabs there, you know, fun stuff there. But really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it simple, easy to follow. I mean, the old one is very easy to follow, I think. It's color coordinated for you guys to, you know, kind of be able to tell what is going on. But some people just want a simplistic view. So that's where I'm going for here. Okay. You know, we got the course history tab. So players that have the best course history at this event are going to be Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, Patrick Cantlay. Now, Tommy Fleetwood only has 1 start. Rory has 2 starts. And then Patrick Cantlay, 3 starts. 3 starts of top 15 or better, or 4 starts of top 15 or better. That's spectacular. Look at someone like Zach Johnson. Zach Johnson is kind of the theme of this week where we're going to be getting some good values. You know, average finish of 18.3. That is really good there from Zach Johnson. We look at someone like Jason Day. Jason Day, same thing. 10th, 46th, 8th, 12th. You know, decent play. But, like, is there really a huge difference from ZJ to Jason Day? You know, we'll see. Brendan Todd, you know, he's played well at this course. Sam Burns, 13th, 24th, 43rd. You know, good stuff there. Brooks Koepka, he's not in it. He went to live. So, I didn't want to touch about live golf, but, you know, we'll just do it real quick. So, the U.S. Open and the RBC Canadian Open, really every tournament this year except for a few tournaments, have been super fun. They've been great. Like, you could say the U.S. Open this last week was the best major we have had since Tiger won the Masters. I'm not even going to bring up Phil anymore with the PGA Championship. I thought that was cool. I thought that was a great sports moment, but he kind of ruined it. The thing with this is, it's like we get these great tournaments, these fun tournaments that are fun to watch, all these golfers firing off, and if they're going to be in different tours across the world on different weeks, you know, the buildup of events is not going to be as fun. But that's the thing. It's like the PGA Tour. I know it was a USGA event, but PGA Tour events, they have that buildup. They have that cut line. They have the storylines. A lot of people were complaining about NBC's coverage of the U.S. Open, but it ended up being like the best major we've had. So, like, at the same time, it's like they're doing it correctly. They know what they're doing. It's just something just interesting there. These no-cut events where these guys that obviously they're not as good anymore, it's just not appealing, and it's not good for the game of golf. And that's really what gets me. Like, what's going on is not good for the game of golf. It's as simple as that. And that's why I don't want to say I'm against it, but that's where I'm like struggling to get behind it. It's because it's not good for the game of golf. It's really bad. Personally, I think it's really bad. But I don't think there's any argument to say it's going to be good for the game of golf. It's just not. So didn't want to inject my opinions to you guys. I'm sorry, but just kind of, he made me mad with his press conference that he had this past week at the U.S. Open saying, oh, I'm really getting sick of these questions. It's because we know what you're doing, Brooks. You're a freaking open book. We know who you are. Like, you're going to be going to the Live Tour. And what's funny is that he was like frustrated about the reporters saying that. Like, no, you're not mad at the reporters, Brooks. You're mad at Live Golf. You're mad at Greg Norman because they purposely scheduled their events like this to hijack the U.S. Open, to hijack the media coverage of the U.S. Open. That's why they did, Brooks. So you're not mad at the reporters. You're mad at Live Golf. You're mad at Greg Norman. So don't even give us that shit. Like that just really bothered me. Okay, we're done with that. I got out of the way kind of early here. Let's get into it a little bit more. Brian Harman. Great segue. Brian Harman, man, he's been frustrating as well in DFS because he's a great play a lot of weeks, and then he'll just burn you. And this is like the perfect spot for him to burn us this week. So 8.6, like, I want to pay up for him. He's going to be a good play. 9th best in course history. If we take out that missed cut there, he's at a 5th, 8th, and 6th. So really good stuff there from Brian Harman. Maybe we could chalk that missed cut up to COVID year too, whatever. And then going from there, Hank Lebioda actually played pretty well here as well. So, we got that. Let's get into recent form. Who is in the best recent form? Well, it's Rory once again, followed by Scotty Scheffler. It's close. It's close. Recent form average over the past 10 weeks, we can see, Rory just a little bit better. Over the last 5, Rory just a little bit better. And that's because Scotty just has like these one-off events where he doesn't produce. But, good stuff there from Rory, good stuff there from Scotty. JT. Keegan surprisingly popping up there. Over the last 10 starts, he ranks 5th in recent form rank. That is really good there. We can see 7th, 37th, 48th, 2nd, 7th. He's been playing some good golf. That's not a big surprise. For someone like Sam Burns, his issue is just missing cuts just randomly. He is that high upside guy that we like to see, and he's going to be a decent play this week. Davis Riley, 6th in recent form rank over the past 10 weeks. That is really shocking. And then some players were, like, even though they missed the cut, like Harold Varner, Sanjay M, Tony Finau, they're still ranking out pretty well in recent form rank as well. Let's get into stat fit. And let me know if you guys like this a little bit better, because I'm trying to give you guys the information you need to succeed here, to kind of give you all the information you want without making it too busy on the videos and whatnot. If you do like it, just, let me know. So this is kind of a little bit of a different view because, like, let's say you want to look at different stats rather than the stats I'm pulling in, or you want to add in a different stat, which brings up another thing, guys. So the reason why this video is coming out on Tuesday morning instead of Monday night is the PGA Tour has not updated their data from the U.S. Open, which kind of makes sense. It's not their event, so they're having to pull in the data from U.S. Open. Seems to be a little bit of a handoff issue going on there. But, these players, and hopefully it gets updated this week before tournament start, all the data is like from the last week, which should be fine. But that is something where I typically like to wait until we have all the information before like making betting picks, before making DFS picks. And we're just not going to have that this week is what it seems like. So, just be careful with that. I just wanted to let you guys know that this is subject to change and really can be like a small difference here. Like JT could go from being the first stat rank play to being like the 4th. And, maybe someone else gets rated out a little bit better. Like those little things do matter. Will Zalatoris, little putt, missing on 18, that matters. That's golf. These little slight adjustments here and there, that adds up. That matters. Okay. But just looking at some of the good stat fits here, and this is going off of the key stats. The key stats are going to be total driving, ball striking, effective birdie to bogey ratio, strokes gained approach, and then I always look at effective scoring and strokes gained total. But looking at that, we can kind of see who we're going to be targeting. So I have it sorted by stat rank average, stat rank total. There's other stats not factoring in there, but the players that are going to be the best stat fits are going to be Harold Varner, JT, Joaquin Niemann, Tony Finau, Mito Pereira, Sam Burns, Keegan Bradley, Sanjay M, Jordan, Rory. All these guys are not really too shocking. Rory's the 4th best. We can go a little bit lower, but, we kind of get a good feel of like who plays well at this tournament and then get into specialists. So this is something that I've been kind of adding on more and more as we go. I like it a lot. I hope you guys like it as well. So just looking at it right now, I have it broken down into designer, course designer, Pete Dye course. That's what we got this week. What greens do we got? We got bent greens. Where's the location? Connecticut. Length of the course is going to be short. Normal scoring event. What is the field type? Full. Weather? Fair. It's going to be fair weather. It's looking like so far. If that changes, I'll adjust that. Par. It's going to be a par 70 course. Okay. So we're factoring that all into one rating. And the reason I want to do this is because there is a little bit of merit in looking at the stats a little bit, but a lot of times people will get too carried away, like focused on like strokes gained putting on bank greens and stuff like that. Like they'll get too crazy with that, or they'll get too crazy with the weather or whatnot. It's something that we want to look at. It is a data point that we want to look at, but at the same time, we want to not go crazy with it. So the best specialists are going to be Rory, Sam Burns, Xander, Seamus Power popping up there, Davis Riley popping up there, Jordan Spieth, JT, Mito, Denny popping up there as well, guys. That's an interesting name. Cameron Tringali popping up there as well. Keegan, Matthew Naismith, top 20 specialist. That's kind of interesting to me. He's a value play once again this week. Pretty cheap price tag on him. So we can kind of get a good feel for this tournament. So yeah, let's get into it, guys. We got the cheat sheet here like we typically would. I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit of a different view though. So I'm going to be showing you guys the player profile. The player profile is going to operate the same as it always has. But I kind of want to give you guys the DraftKings view. And let me test something out. Because I haven't tested this out yet. So let's try to highlight Sam Burns as the first player. So I want to see if this operates the same as it did before. And I have all that same information that you saw on the other slides, like right here, what we're looking at. So click on the player, control, and then click on player profile. It pops up Sam Burns as the player profile. That's pretty fun there. So Sam Burns, to me, in the high tier is going to be a good play for you. Is it going to be a core play? Maybe. I mean, he is kind of checking all the boxes here. 7th in course history rank. So we look at course history rank. We can see why. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there, guys, that we have for you. It's really what information do you guys want to see? That's what I'm trying to give you guys. So Sam Burns, course history average 27th. Course history rank 7th, so he's finished 13th, 24th, 3rd. That's really good there from him. Then if we want to look at the key stats, this is where it gets fun. So for me, I'm just going to be looking at the key stats for this week. If you guys want to look at something else, you can look at that as well. So here we go. Click off of course history. All right, I messed that up. There we go. Now we're going to click into the key stats for this week. There we go. So those are the top 4 key stats for this week. He's really popping up there. You can see 12th in total driving, 25th in ball striking, 5th in effective birdie to bogey ratio, and 4th in strokes gained approach. You know, that's pretty good. We want to go further. We do have par 4 scoring is factored in there as well. We could look at that. So let me find par 4 scoring. If I have that in here. If not, I'll get that added in here shortly. Okay, so I don't have that in here just yet. I'll get that added in there shortly. But that is going to be a key stat for this week. Let's get off of that, and let's go into recent form. So recent form, and what I want to see, for me, I want to look at cut percentage, cuts made, and then let's just look at kind of the last few starts. Where does he rank in last 5 starts? Where does he rank in last 10 and last 15? So he's made 4 straight cuts in a row. We like that. Recent form over the last 10 weeks, 5th. Recent form over the last 15 weeks, 15th rank. And then over the last 5, ranks out 12th. But overall, ranks out top 5 in the field in recent form rank. He's the second best pick in the model. And he's one of those players where, sure, maybe we still can't play him in like cash. And that was another thing that I was proud of last week, is that not the value plays were really good last week. Joel Damon, Matthew Naismith, Danny McCarthy. There's one more in there, I think. And then Ryan Fox missed the cut. That was the only bad one. But the other thing I was really proud of was my feel for that mid-tier price point tier. We saw some of those players that were like really kind of intriguing. Tony Finau, Mito. You could say like Neiman. You could say, there's a bunch of players. Brooks. All those guys were like solid plays, but the only one that was checking all the boxes, the only one we felt good about as like a cash core play was Matt Fitzpatrick, and we saw that come true. So with like Sam Burns, my thoughts for him last week are still kind of carrying over this week, where he's not exactly a safe play, not exactly someone you want to go crazy with this week too much. You know, he's going to be a good play, a play that I do like, but not something to go crazy with, okay? And then specialist, we can get into specialist stuff if we want to. That's all there for you guys. Like, we're just trying to give you the most information you want as possible there. Player info we can look at. We already have all that stuff though right here. Just trying to give you guys as much information as possible to be successful. So we'll pick up the pace here. We'll get into the next player. So the next player that I do like is going to be Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele. So both of these guys here I think are going to be excellent plays. Do I feel comfortable about making one of them a core play? Well, I do feel comfortable about making Patrick Cantlay a core play. To me, Patrick Cantlay is just a standout play as well. We did see that course history. The course history is good. 4 straight top 15 finishes or better. We love that from him. Recent form rank, 9th in the field, 3rd best course history. Stat rank could be a little bit better. He hasn't had the best season, I guess. And what I had to do this week, because we don't have that updated data from the PGA Tour just yet, I had to look over the last 10 weeks for the key stat data. That's kind of when we see like recent form and whatnot start to fall off a little bit, is after 10 starts in a row. Not that much, but once again, it's all about adding up the little things here. So that's why I chose to look at 10 weeks or 10 tournaments. But overall, rank style is the 3rd best pick in the 9 to 5 mile. That is really intriguing to me. Once again, I just really like him as a play. So we look at the key stats once again. So in total driving over the last 10 weeks, he ranks 24th in the field. Not terrible. In ball striking, he ranks out 20th in the field. Just top 30 in all the key stats that we're looking at. So for me, yeah, that's good enough. I like that as well. One thing I want to look at just real quick is how many cuts has he made in a row. That is something that kind of always interests me. So recent form. Let's see here. So 2 cuts made in a row. That's not the best. Let's just look at his recent form, though. Kind of call that out because it's pretty good. His recent form is pretty good. All right, so we're just looking over his last 5 starts. So we can see, this is, oh, I clicked off of him. Darn it. Clicked off of him there. All right, so we'll get back into him. All right, so looking at Patrick Cantlay. So this is where people might be like kind of, I don't know, maybe if they don't factor in the Xeric Classic, they don't like him as much, but 14th last week. And he kind of said that he didn't like that course. There's some information coming out that he hadn't practiced too much. Finished 14th, finished top 15. 3rd the week before that. Miscut, which makes sense. He just went and tied for a victory and then just won a tournament. So typically we don't like to target players after a victory because they're just not as mentally sharp. So that miscut we can kind of just write off. And if we do, spectacular play. Just tough to ignore Patrick Cantlay this week as well. Xander Schauffele, pretty simple play. Just tough not to love him. Sure, course history rank, he's getting knocked for that miscut 4 years ago, but 20th place finish 2 years ago. We like that from him. Obviously, he's been playing much better as of recent, so we can see 15th, 14th, 18th, 13th, 5th. Good stuff there from Xander Schauffele. And then getting a little bit lower. HV3 is very interesting to me. I do like HV3 a decent amount. So the fun thing about HV3 this week is that he recently apparently had a conversation with MJ, he's sponsored by that brand, about going to Live Tour, and he, I guess, decided that he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to go there. And to me, honestly, going to the Live Tour just means you're mentally tapping out. So the fact that he's not going there, to me, tells me that, he's trying to win. He's trying to be competitive. He wants to win on the most competitive tour. He's not just looking for a paycheck. He wants to win the big ones. So that's where I like looking at HV3. Course history-wise, 47th, 32nd, 21st, miscut. That's pretty good. Recent form-wise, missed the cut last week. 13th, 27th, 48th. Like I said, he is still top 10 in recent form rank. I do like that. I do want to point out Seamus Power as well. Seamus Power is priced up a little bit. That's what worries me. But, pretty good course history. 19th place finish last year. 66th, 36th in the years prior to that. Pretty strong stat fit as well. But looking at specialist, 4th in the field, course history ranked 20th. Stat rank top 20, recent form rank top 25. Just a little bit too much missed cuts mixed in there for Seamus Bar, but he is a top 10 pick in the 95 miles. So for me, that's going to be tough to pass up on. And we're looking at someone like Davis Riley. So Davis Riley, I do like a decent amount as well. We can see his recent form has been pretty good there. 7 straight mid cuts in a row, 31st place finish at the U.S. Open, which once again, like looking at Mito and Cameron Young, who are pretty much the exact same plays, it made sense to just go with Davis Riley, who was a little bit cheaper. After that, 13th, 4th, 13th, 9th place finish. Good stuff there from him. Doesn't have any course history, but top 20 stat rank play. Ranking out really well in the model. That's because he's a good specialist, top 10 in the field. Obviously good stat rank play, great recent form. Going to be tough to not play him at this price point because you can make a really strong builds by going with players in that price point tier. Mito, I already mentioned Mito was on kind of the bad side of the weather draw. Kind of just due for a missed cut as well. He had been a guy that had been playing such good golf. Factor in a 1.5 stroke disadvantage. That adds up. And obviously, if it was a PGA Tour event, he would have made the cut. T65 and ties. So, I do really like Mito this week. Recent form rank 13th in the field. Obviously, getting knocked a little bit for that missed cut last week. Stat rank top 10 in the field. Really good specialist as well. No course history as well. Top 5 pick in the 95 mile, which is kind of crazy, but that's kind of what happens sometimes when players don't have course history. It's like, what do you do with that? Do you knock them? Do you not knock them? I choose to not knock them too much. Brian Harman to me is a very interesting play as well. I almost want to make Brian Harman a core play just because he has 3 out of 4 top 10 finishes at this tournament, at this course. The only worry with him would be the fact that he has 1 missed cut mixed in there, and he also has been missing some cuts randomly this season. And I guess that'd be the worry. But, pretty strong recent form. So 43rd, 18th, missed cut, 34th. We could go back further than that, I guess, if we want to. Let's see. So 35th missed cut. So, he has been having some random missed cuts, but for the most part, just been a solid golfer this whole season. So for me, someone like Brian Harman does make a lot of sense. He's someone that I do want to target this week. I kind of had Power as a mid-tier play, 9.1. So to give you guys another one, we'll go with someone like Keith Mitchell. Keith Mitchell to me is interesting. 2 missed cuts at this tournament. That's our worry there with Keith Mitchell. But besides that, pretty good player. Recent form, 4 straight made cuts in a row, 7th, 18th, 34th. Decent stuff there from Keith Mitchell. Just not a lot, not enough to love, I guess, would be the best way to sum it up. But good enough play. It's a player that I do like. Now we're going to get into the low tier. The low tier players I do like as well. Brendan Steele. Brendan Steele is very interesting to me. Brendan Steele has been playing some great golf. Okay, 7 straight made cuts in a row, a 10th, 9th, 51st, 7th, 48th, 13th, 26th. Really strong recent form from him. Only ranks out 26th in the field, though. So if we were to look a little bit more zoomed in there, let's say if we wanted to look at the last 5 starts, and this is where it's both good and not good to have this, because you can kind of lead yourself to some trap thoughts. So we can see over the last 5 starts, he ranks out 9th in recent form rank. That's where I like to look at more of a long-term approach there, as opposed to looking at too zoomed in, because you might be on someone a little bit too much than you really should be. But really strong play, I think, from Brendan Steele. Let's get off of his recent form. Let's just look at the key stats real quick. So over the last 10 weeks, ranks out, top 30 or better in total driving, ball striking, birdie to bogey ratio. Could be a little bit better in strokes gained approach. I guess that'd be the worry with him. Let's click off of that. Let's get into course history real quick. Course history is decent. So miscut, top 10, 20th or 21st place finish, and a miscut. So, 2 out of 4 made cuts, but miscut, well, either way, 2 out of 4 miscuts, and the made cuts have been, top 20 finishes. So good stuff there from Brendan Steele. I think he's going to be a good enough play. So So let's go down a little bit lower here. Some other players that I do like. Joel Damon, a decent amount. So Joel Damon kind of mentioned after the U.S. Open that, you know, his game is in a good spot. He's like mentally in a good spot as well. He thinks this tournament is going to be a great course for him. He mentioned that on PGA Tour radio. We can see, you know, pretty decent recent form. 3 straight make cuts in a row. Has a 70% chance to make the cut. Obviously, the top 10 finished last week, 32nd the week before that, 63rd the week before that. You know, pretty good stuff. He does only rank out top 50 in the 9 to 5 model. That would be the worry with me, is that he's not ranking out too well in the model. We're more going off of like word of mouth with him, the player, rather than going with like the data. And that's always something I don't like to do typically. CT Pan, shout out to CT Pan. Let's just give him a slow clap. CT Pan, you know, at the RBC Canadian Open, we all know he was going to win. He decided to dip out, and, you know, he's like, I'm going to let the PGA Tour have this one. You know, the live golf stuff is going on. They don't need CT Pan winning the tournament. They need some of the bigger guys. They need JT. They need Rory. They need Finau. They need, who else was up there? Was it Cantlay? Corey Connors. They need one of those big guys to win. So he just dipped out because we all knew he was going to win the RBC Canadian Open, decided not to play. Well, we have him back this week now. Obviously, I'm joking a little bit, but he was a great play. It was really unfortunate that, you know, there was a lot of similar plays to him that week that didn't play. Or no, there's a lot of similar plays to him that did well, that played well. And it kind of sucks that he didn't play because, for the most part, he could have went Sunjam mode where Sunjam, compared to all the other players that were kind of the same plays as him, he was the one that missed the cut. So that could have been CT Pan, but for the most part, it probably would have been a made cut, probably would have been a strong finish. Now, he does have great recent form, you know, 7 straight make cuts in a row, ranks out top 20 in recent form rank. We can see just, you know, solid finishes there. 26th, 53rd, 52nd, 15th, 29th. We like that. The worry with him is going to be his course history, and that's probably why he's priced this low. Miscut, 36 miscut. That's not that good, but at this price point, 7.3, a top 40 pick in the 9-5 model, I do really like that from him. I think he's going to be a good enough play. And then Charles Howell as well. Charles Howell, to me, is someone that should be a good play at this tournament, especially at this price point. I do like him. Could be a little bit better in recent form. Could be a little bit better in the model. Top 35, that's okay. Matt Naismith, same thing, kind of with CT Pan. I know this is an extra play, but, you know, a little bit poor course history, but, you know, strong recent form. I do like him as a pick as well. But now we're going to get into the value plays here, guys. So going lower. Smotherman is kind of interesting to me. I was a little bit shocked that he was at this price point, to be honest with you guys. Doesn't have any course history. Let's get into the recent form. So I just kind of want to look at recent form average, made cuts. Let's just look at the last few starts on tour. So, like, good enough starts. Like, he's making cuts here. We like that. Doesn't really rank out too well in recent form rank, but he kind of ranks out good enough, and he's a decent staff at top 30 in the field. Like, that is good enough for me. For a value play, all we are trying to do is get a make cut, and I think he's going to do that for us. Like, this is a good enough play at this price point. And then just some other plays here that I think are going to be good enough plays just at their price point. If I like Charles Howell at his price point, then I kind of have to like Lucas Glover at 6.8. Like, that's a good enough price point. 3 straight make cuts in a row. We talk about a player that's typically just a smart player, typically a strong ball striker. That's going to be Lucas Glover. He has a top 20 finish and a miscut over the last 4 years here. That's good enough for me. Like, I don't mind him as a pick there. Adam Schenk. Adam Schenk is ranking out, 42nd in the 9-5 model. That's not really too shocking because he's been a good player. Really since he made fun of his wife for wearing a lampshade as a hat from the hotel, he's been playing well. That's kind of a joke he made on Twitter. I kind of called it out because he had a really strong finish that week. And really since then, he has been playing great golf. So note to self, if you're struggling with your game of golf, make fun of your wife or girlfriend or whatever, significant other. Okay, that's the key to golf. Yeah, just a good enough play, okay stat rank play, okay recent form, okay, not really good course history. That's the worry with him. 4 straight miscuts. That's why he's priced down this low. Decent specialist though, 30th in the field. So like a decent play for Adam Schenk, like good enough, but value play. What you're trying to get is a make cut, and I think he's going to give that to us as well. So just getting into one more play, Tyler Duncan. Tyler Duncan is extremely interesting to me because he is a golfer that when he's a decent specialist, that's kind of when you want to target him. Top 25 in the field. That's because this course suits his game, and that's really backed up by course history, okay? 54th, 32nd, 43rd, 33rd place finishes there from Tyler Duncan. Obviously, we really like that from him. Stat rank could be a little bit better, but 54th in the field, that kind of tells us that that's going to be good enough to make the cut. Recent form rank, 55th in the field. Once again, not that great, but that tells us that that should be good enough to make the cut. Model rank, top 40 in the field. We're getting a top 36 play or top 40 play at 6.4. That's a really good price point. To me, that's kind of worth it, especially in a week where it does seem like we do want to be targeting some of the higher tier price point plays. Tyler Duncan at this price point makes a lot of sense to me. So real quick, we're going to begin into the first look build, highlighting the core plays. And I know I didn't do as good of a job highlighting the core plays in this video as I typically do. I threw a lot of information out for you guys. I know this is a longer video, so I do apologize for that. But let's get into it. All right. So getting back into the lineup tool, we'll start off with the core plays. So to me, Patrick Cantlay, core play. I don't think we can miss out on Patrick Cantlay as a play this week. Just a really strong play. If you want to dip down a little bit lower, you can. And I'm going to say core play loosely, guys. I reserve the right to change my mind here because I don't want to say it's been a little bit of a scrambling week, but I finished up that tool for the most part. Obviously, there's some tweaks in there. And with the PGA Tour data not being like fully ready to go yet, I reserve the right to change some of this stuff if need be, okay? So I do really like Brian Harman as well. This kind of does seem like a trap play. Right now, I'm going to treat him as a core play, but honestly, guys, he could fall to like a mid-tier play as the week goes on, as I get deeper into this. Same thing with like Brendan Steele. Like to me, they're the right plays. Brendan Steele and Brian Harman are the correct plays, but like over trusting those two players makes me a little bit worried. So like CT Pan, I love as well. And then honestly, Tyler Duncan at his price point to me is just like I don't want to pass up on that. I don't think we need to because one, you can kind of go with the schedule and the missed cut. If you did that last week with the U.S. Open, well, you got lucky because you landed up on Joel Damon, Denny McCarthy, Matthew Naismith. So you got lucky going with the scheduling and missed cut. And you probably had a good week because then you're affording to pay up for Xander, for Patrick Cantlay, for Joaquin Niemann. You already had Matt Fitzpatrick in there. You already had Sanjay M mixed in there. So you might have only had one missed cut and you're selling yourself up for success. That's kind of where scheduling a missed cut with a value play like Tyler Duncan makes a lot of sense. It's where you can get away with it. So ideally, I would love to fit Xander into this build, but it's 200 over. That sucks. That would have been a great build. I would have loved that build a lot. You could go with Jordan. That's fine. But I want to rebuild this a little bit to the point where we don't have to play Brian Harman. And to the point where I can fit in Xander because to me, yeah, he is also going to be a core play for me as well. I just trust these two. Yes, they're priced up a little bit too much, but to me, Patrick Cantlay, Xander, we can lock them into like a top 20 finish and potentially win, but they're going to have safety, 84% chance to make the cut for Patrick Cantlay, 86% chance to make the cut for Xander Schauffele. These two guys are just safe and consistent every single week. So that's why I like them as plays. So instead of Brian Harman, who do we have to go with? We could go with Denny McCarthy. I don't mind Denny McCarthy, top 30 pick in the 95 mile. We could go with Keith Mitchell. I don't mind that as well. We could go a little bit more fair and balanced if we want to as well. Let's see, who can we go with instead of, I like Tyler Duncan. I don't want to get off of Tyler Duncan, but maybe we can move up from Brendan Steele potentially. I mean, do we just go Lucas Glover or Smotherman instead? I mean, Smotherman has been making a ton of cuts. Let's just toss in Smotherman here and just hope that Tyler Duncan or Smotherman makes the cut. So then we're going to get off of Brendan Steele to be able to afford another stud. Maybe Davis Riley. Did I just call Davis Riley a stud? I mean, I like Seamus Power, but he's a little bit too risky. I mean, that's okay. Maybe Harold Varner instead. I don't know. Like, this is a decent build. Like, not great, obviously. But, this is definitely more of a GPP build. But with Xander, Patrick Cantlay, CD Pan, we should begin to make cut. And then from Smotherman and Tyler Duncan, we're really just hoping for a make cut as well. And then Power, definitely more of a GPP play. That's the worry. But I do want to point out one thing as well here real quick. Like, you could just easily make a quality build by going boom, boom, boom. Then, I don't know. Let's go Steele. I don't know, who else? Like, whoever else. I don't know. I just tossed in Putnam there. Obviously, we would go with someone like Tyler Duncan. Again, we would go with Tyler Duncan as well again here. This is a pretty good build. This should be a safe build. It's a little bit risky, obviously, with targeting two guys just off of a miscut. Tyler Duncan, a little bit streaky. Seamus Power, a little bit streaky. Brendan Steele, definitely streaky. Like, this is risky. This is GPP only build, but it does rank out really well model-wise. You know, that's an okay build. All right, but that is all I have for you guys for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know it was a little bit longer, but I kind of wanted to break down the new tools. I was excited for the US Open week. I'm excited to kind of get this stuff out for you guys. And that's kind of just the 9 to 5 way. I'm always trying to make tools that are better for you guys, easier to use for you guys. And it's the best value in DFS. $10 a month gives you what you need and more to succeed. All right, that's all I have for you guys this week. If you want to join 9 to 5 Nation, please do. $10 a month, best value in PGA DFS. That's all I have for you guys. And as always, let's keep cashing.